Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Minecraft Memories, the show that's about Minecraft and memories. Last time we built a shrine way over there, not too far. Whoa, skeletons and zombie. And then we did the Chamber of Spruce, which actually has more lilac and rose in it than it does spruce. But, you know, you get what you pay for, and you didn't pay for anything. Last time I talked a bit about band, prom, and yeah, probably about that. Oh, and terrorizing the band director's house. Is there anything in here? What in the world? What was I thinking? Oh, there's probably like a bad guy or someone I put in there and they despawned. Last time I talked about how, well, I mentioned that when I was in band, or not band, but I went to prom with a gal and I had an eye patch on, and she had an eye patch on in solidarity, I guess. I'm going to talk a little bit about the eye injury in more detail. So we were playing bottle rockets, as you do if you're young and dumb, and one thing led to another, and that led to the emergency room. Right off the bat, this was a Saturday or Friday. It was I don't know what day. It was either a Friday or Saturday because we had off school. I wanted to say it was a Saturday. And I'm thinking, oh man, when I get home and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm probably going to miss school on Monday. Not realizing I was going to miss a lot more than school on Monday. So what happened was, I'm going to put a TNT back here. I got hit in the eye with a bottle rocket. I'm taken home. I'm recuperating Saturday. I'm recuperating Sunday. Or I'm recuperating one of those days. Monday comes around. I don't have to go to school. Well, that's cool. Not cool that I'm blind in this eye, but I don't have to go to school. Tuesday, I'm not going to school. Eventually, I wound up skipping, I think it was like 3 weeks. Or 2 weeks. It was a number of weeks. I think this was the direction of, yeah. Weep. Alright, I kind of like where that... What in tarnation? What was I even thinking? I love how you can just kind of explore this world and find random things. So I missed a lot of school, like 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, thinking about it, this happened in 2007. I still have I have a coupon in my wallet to this day that I got the day that my eye was taken from me. There was a Taco John's coupon thing, and it said you can claim a free taco anytime in January 2008. So this would have been the same. I can see these being all slimy covered. This would have been the same day, actually, because it was the day of the Christmas parade. So they come over, we play with bottle rockets, I go to the emergency room, and then I wind up skipping about 3 weeks of school. I actually wind up going back on the very last day before winter breaks over, and everyone is like, oh my gosh, Kyle, oh my gosh, your eye, what happened? Oh, I heard, Kyle, about your eye. Oh, I heard all about it. I'm so sorry. Whenever anything like that happens, you're going to get a lot of people giving you the... Maybe they're really sympathetic. I'm going to say they're okay, sympathetic, but you kind of get the feeling that they're doing it for the attention, sympathy, because if you're the center of attention because of your weird eye thing, and you give them attention, then by extension, they are also the center of attention. I don't want to sound cynical, but that's kind of how it felt. So I go back and I have to wear this. It's a weird little eye patch that has it's blue. It was taped to my eye, taped. It had a blue rim around it, and then the inside was like a white bug eye. It had a bunch of little dots. I'm like, yep, it hurt. It wasn't fun. I've seen the teachers. They're like, oh, Kyle, you're back. I'm like, yep, bottle rocket happened. Don't need to do that again. I was in good spirits about it, because if you're negative about anything like that, then that negativity. If you're negative about being blind in one eye, it doesn't stop you being blind in one eye. All that does is make your life more negative while also having a blind eye, if that makes sense. So you kind of have to go into it positively, with positivity. You need to go into it also speaking English, or at least some language, which apparently I can't do. So I wound up, talking to the teachers. Yep. My senior year, I was actually in 2 AP classes. APs, like advanced placement. They weren't too difficult, and part of me thinks that maybe. See, this is the thing. Teachers are human, and oh no, one of our students who, he's a good guy, wound up being blinded one eye from a bottle rocket. I kind of feel like maybe they were sympathetic and kind of curved things slightly in my favor. Oh, he couldn't study. I say that, but I did well on the advanced placement test. Well, I should say, I had 2 teachers. One of them was actually the teacher during confirmation. I knew there was no way in heck he was going easy on me, nor did I want him to. AP English was probably one of the best classes I've ever had in high school by far. I learned a lot about analyzing literature, but also analyzing the way people think. And it was really, really cool. And by God, he made you do the work. He was an old-fashioned kind of gentleman. He saw one of the students crying once. Like, let's call her Cindy. Cindy, what happened? Such and such is such a jerk. He's like, you want me to go and punch him in the nose? I'll go and punch him in the nose. He was the kind of teacher who has tenure and uses that in a positive way to connect with students in unconventional methods, and not the negative way that people associate tenure with. But my eye injury, he looks at it and says, well, can you still read? I'm like, actually, the doctor says I probably shouldn't. Well, you have 2 sisters, don't you? Yeah. Well, they can read it to you. Well, they don't know what these words mean. Yeah, they don't know what those words mean, but they don't have to. You know what the words mean. So as long as they can read it. So what wound up happening is, because my eye was in a very delicate situation, and the doctors didn't want me reading, I was laying in bed, and my sister was sitting there, the middle sister, one younger than me. She was reading the assignments that I had to do, and then typing the words. Like, I would dictate to her what to type. And I'm glad I had that. I didn't want, I don't want sympathy. If I'm in AP English, I'm glad you're doing the work. Now, that's not to say 100% of the time people can 100% do the assignments if they've got an injury. That's not always going to be the case. But it was the case for me, and I'm glad that he kind of understood and worked with me on that. The other class that I was in AP, hang on, I'm going to take some water. So refreshing. Everybody go and get water. This broadcast brought to you by H2O. It's everywhere. For real though, all the liquids that cover 75% of the Earth's surface, water is probably one of my top 3. The other class I was in was AP Physics. Now, both AP classes lasted all year long. I need to put a couple of rooms on here. This is going to be like a little blacksmith area. I've decided. I have deemed it such. They lasted all year. So I had, for 2 of the 4 classes, I had again next semester. AP Physics wasn't too difficult, although there were a few sections that kicked my butt. But they kicked everybody's butt. So I'm glad I didn't have to contend with that too much. I'm glad it wasn't just me. It was probably a difficult subject. But then again, nobody ever claims that physics is easy. Although it's not as hard as I feel like a lot of people make it. I think that if it's taught well, it can be an easy enough subject. Not easy, but easy enough. Um, because math isn't necessarily easy, but it's easy enough. If I'm making any kind of sense here. This is a really thin outcropping that I kind of don't want to do. Tell you what, we'll leave that like that. Maybe we'll make it. Yeah. In the AP Physics class, though, when I took the AP tests, the one class that I thought I would do well in was AP English, but I got like a 2, and I think you needed a 3. It was like out of 5. And if you got a 3, you got the college course credits for it. So I got a 2 in that. Apparently, I'm not very good at English. And then the physics one, which I was sure I was going to bomb, I actually got a 3 in. Now, these aren't great scores, but they're good enough. And I mean, I got them. I got them. So close yet so far away. I'm gonna go and we're gonna cheat this. Oh, big. Shh, don't tell. Don't tell. Don't tell. Shh, that's our secret. In the AP Physics class, there was actually a project we did once where you broke into 2 teams, and the object of the class, the project, was each team has a painting and a trophy. The game was it was like a museum, and the other team had to try and heist it from you. Now, what happened was the other team and as soon as she told us the object, she's like, oh, and you can use anything from the supply room. So what happened was the other team just runs and raids the bejesus out of this room, and we're left with scraps. And we tell her, she's like, well, that's just how it goes. So we're scrambling, trying to figure out defense mechanisms. Our mechanisms pretty much amounted to little more than marbles in a bucket attached to a trophy. Very easily able to be tricked. And then we asked the so we kind of went meta on it. Let's put a little bit of I wish there were things that grew in sand, but there aren't. So we're going to put a little bit of the sand. And then we're going to just put little, I don't know, maybe maybe long ago there was like a guy that lived, I don't know. Yeah, long ago you lived there. Maybe that's sand from a foreign beach. I like that idea. That's a cool thought. Let's do something up here. Let's put like a little cottage. We don't have enough actual buildings. We've been just building into structures. Let's start putting stuff. Ooh, you know what? No, I kind of like that lip. Let's put that lip back. So we went meta. We asked the teacher, hey, here's the rules. They need to steal our painting and our trophy. Can we make photocopies of the painting? Because the painting, quote unquote, was a simple coloring book sheet. And she smiled and said, yeah, that's allowed. So we went and we made like a dozen copies, and each of us colored it. Some of us colored it to look more like the real painting, because they've been colored. Like once she gave them to us, and they were already colored state. So some of us colored them like that. Some of us colored them inverted. So when the other team got to our area, they were kind of surprised to see just a dozen paintings all over the room. The real one we actually hid underneath a soda machine, I think. And one of the gals from the other team actually almost found it. Like, she said, do you think it's under the soda machine? And she looked and she saw the page. And I think she even saw it, but she's like, I think someone said, no, that's not it. Or this it said something like that. That wouldn't be it. So she let it be, thankfully, because now our grade wasn't dependent on this task. It was just a fun little thing. Meanwhile, our team, we got, because these were we had two different rooms, and you get to set them up. As soon as we even approached the room, like we were still outside, like 2 or 3 of their alarms went off, and we're like, is that allowed? She's like, yeah, that's fine. We should have done was like done that, and then whenever the quote cops unquote showed up, cops being the I guess not other team but the people acting as cops, we could just say we were just walking by the museum and we don't know what happened. Theirs were oversensitive. We set off like 5 or 6 or 7 of their alarms. I don't know what I'm gonna do here. I'm not bad at building, I swear. So we set off like a bunch of their alarms, and they set off like 2 of ours. One of the guys who was actually kind of a bully to me in high school wound up getting an F on that because he was on the other team, and they said that he just didn't do a thing the entire time, and that they were carrying his weight. So, and I mean, it might sound good, like, haha, that's what he gets, but when I say bully, I mean, keep in mind, I went to middle school. By this time, the bullies in high school were a lot like going to the gym and be like, oh man, this is a hard workout. Whereas the middle school ones were like boot camp. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary 2 Weeks in Hell about the way that the special forces, the things that they have to do in order to be in the special forces, but it's a nightmare. I actually had a manager back when I worked at KFC who was in the special forces. He said that, yeah, I was in the special forces driving on the road, bomb goes off, I wake up in Germany. He woke up in Germany like months later and had to relearn how to walk and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I've got nothing but respect for you. And he knew, I wasn't like one of those anti-military kooks, but he was like, hey Kyle, come to my office. So I go to the office, and he shows me, like, he's got the work laptop, and he's like, because I'd asked him something about, like, I always ask him military questions. I'm personally not in the military. I've never been. I never have a want to go. It's one of those things that seems a little too much for me. But I always asked him kind of questions, and he was like, yeah, Kyle, come in here in my office for a little bit. Because we were slow. I go in there, and he's got the documentary up. And he's like, this is, you kind of wondered what was I had to do. Well, here's some of it. 5 minutes in, he just shakes his head. He's like, I can't sit here and watch this anymore. And I'm like, why? And he said, I'm reliving it. It's too much. This was a man who wound up experiencing an IED firsthand, and the boot camp documentary was too much. I think that says a lot about what kind of stuff you have to go through in order to be in the military like that. Special forces. He was in the... Was he in the Green Berets? I can't remember if he was Green Beret or not. I'm going to say Green Beret. I'm inching toward that, but maybe he wasn't. I'm not entirely 100% sure, and I don't want to be incorrect here. I can't remember that precisely, but he... that was kind of the level, comparative, kind of sidetracked there. Funny enough, 2 of my friends, one of them living back home, he's the one actually convinced me to get a computer and start recording because he thought I'd be good at it, and he wants to record stuff with me someday. He and another friend, the one that put out my eye with the bottle rocket, they both found his car once, and he was like driving a truck, and they pooped on the hood of it. They pooped on the hood of his truck. I was like, guys, why did you poop on the hood of his truck? They're like, well, we knew he was mean to you, so we pooped on the hood of his truck. Thanks, guys. I mean, that's friendship right there, I guess. Granted, I don't endorse pooping on people's trucks, but uh, they weren't going to be talked out of it. Oh man, that kind of reminds me of a bit of a fun. Yeah, good enough. I don't have to be. Let's just throw some of these in here. Just like get rid of this garbo. Reminds me of whenever I went with them, because I live in the countryside. And in the countryside, there are two things to do. You can either stay inside and play video games, or you can do things you're not supposed to do. And Bottle Rocket Wars clearly fit in that second category because they are not, in fact, a video game. Other things we like to do was we went and we tried to go cow tipping. I don't know if you've ever heard of cow tipping or been cow tipping. Cow tipping is where you go, find a field of cows, and attempt to tip one over. Whoops. Okay. The cows in our area do not go to sleep. The cows in our area are awake 24/7 because we went. You can't even get close to them. You can't even touch them. They run off. One time we went and we saw, and the cows were probably about a mile's walk down the road. You go down dead of night, dark street, and we're in this pen with cows, and we see like a coyote, and we're like, "Ooh, let's get out of here." Good thing too, because they wound up stampeding like mere minutes after we went. And every time we would go, we would take these little these swords. Okay, so these swords, I think we started buying them when we were 14. We got them from the flea market. There's like a little flea market, big old massive one. It was a lot of fun to go to, Peddler's Mall. The reason we got those was because my best friend and I played Diablo 2, and by God, we were not going to be without our weapons should Diablo's minions ever attack. Now, we never expected them to actually attack, but man, Diablo 2 made them so cool. So for a while there, we actually ran around with swords that we had tied beads to because we were wanting to socket them. In Diablo 2, you could put gems inside of swords and socket. Man, that thing is still so cool. Socketing swords was a way of, I'm gonna go back to this island. Socketing things, you could, like, let's say you put an emerald inside of a sword. Well, all of a sudden, emerald is poison damage. If you put a ruby, it's fire damage. And you can put it in armor and it gives special defenses or magic gain. So we would do that. So we started buying swords, and man, we had an extensive collection there. I still have a few of them. But we would always take some, and we'd give them to our friends. And we felt like mercenaries straight out of the Middle Ages with these things. If you know, like, a teenage boy, man, give him a sword. It doesn't even these are just like little replicas. We bought them for $10-15 at the Peddler's Mall. Not even anything really dangerous. I mean, you could stab someone with them, obviously, but not really that dangerous. Dangerous, but not that dangerous, if that makes sense. I might do another one of these. These are pretty cool. And I gotta tell you, we felt like mercenaries. Yeah, that's neat. That's neat. This is neat. I like this because it's neat. Can I get rid of the... Whoa! Does that always happen? Whoa. Oh, eat my heart. Maybe we'll do... Does it not want to be there anymore? Okay, it's okay being there. Every time we would go, we would just carry swords. Every time we would go through the woods, we would carry swords. I see this episode's kind of getting longer, but I gotta talk about these weapons. We started off with swords. We got them. We would walk to each other's house. We would always carry a sword because you don't want to be without them in case Diablo's minions attack. And then we got it. Eventually, we had like this little training bow I got for Christmas way back when, and I found it. Well, Amazons were really cool. They're a class in Diablo. And so I forget, he got a bow also. And we tried hunting with them. I actually got really, really close to shooting this bunny rabbit. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because then I would have felt guilty afterwards for shooting a bunny rabbit that wasn't going to eat. Then again, had I shot it, I probably would have eaten it. I probably would have tried cooking it on the spit and then eating it after I had tried skinning it. But I got really close, and man, this rabbit was dumb. I actually drew a comic about it once, because I was shooting, and they were landing within feet of the rabbit, and it would just hop off a little bit. And then I would go and get the arrows, and the rabbit was still there. Still there. He didn't care. That rabbit just did not care in a way that a living organism should care. I don't know why I came back here. So we would travel back and forth with swords and stuff, and when we went cow tipping, we would actually use them to wedge open the fence, because they were one of those not chain link fence, but barbed wire fences. Oh, don't they have magic books? I think they have magic book. There were magic books somewhere. Their magic book. Can I put it here? Can I put it here? Yeah, let's put it there. We would all use it to kind of wedge open the barbed wire fence, stick it underneath, and then you could kind of scoot underneath through. I think one of my favorite memories, I'm going to wrap this up with one of my favorite memories about it. I think the golden age of childhood nostalgia for me was about 13, 14, 15, and parts of 16. Or probably 13, 14, 15. It was before my friend really got a vehicle. Because once he got a vehicle, that meant car payments and a job, and that was kind of the start of the responsibility era. And while that's awesome, because, you know, freedom, I'm not going to... There's no way I'm going to spit on that. But while we were 13, 14, and 15, that was the golden age. You were playing video games, you were walking back and forth to each other's houses, you didn't really have a care in the world. You know, you went to school, you had enough autonomy and friends that you had places that you could go and be taken, not enough responsibilities as a kid. I mean, I'm looking through it with a bit of rose-tinted glasses, but you gotta see what I'm seeing. It was, you know, we would just walk back and forth to each other's houses with swords, and life was a fantasy back then. So we would, you know, the swords. One of my favorites probably took place, I don't know, it must have been, it was December. I think it was like December 22nd. It was a few days before Christmas. It's kind of cold, but not too cold. You know, I'm wearing it's like a fleece pair of pants and a fleece long sleeve shirt that Grandma had given me for one of the presents. It was a nice outfit. Very, very comfortable too. And I'm at his house, and like, hey, let's walk to my house. Well, we walk, instead of taking a direct route, we walk through the woods, over a hill in the woods, through, like, following the creek. We wound up in another subdivision. There's a subdivision behind my house, and we wound up back there, up on the hills behind it. And then eventually come to my house. And then once we got there, Mom had baked some fresh cookies, and we ate some of those, and the house smelled like cinnamon because Mom had the Christmas candles burning. Christmas is her favorite month of the year. And you might say, wait, you mean favorite day? Nope. Not to her. To her, Christmas is a month. You watch the movies on TV. You decorate the house, making it look like Santa has just exploded in the vicinity, and that his festive entrails are scattered all around the vicinity. Her modus operandi centers around the month of Christmas. She loves it, and you know, that's awesome. It's always been a nice little kind of memory about But we get there, we eat cookies, and I think he spends the night later on. Um, I don't know. It was a really interesting time. I was I went to his house one night, and this one really stands out because of how kind of crazy weird it was. Oh yeah, what's his name is up there. I'm gonna build more down here. Give me a second to get another water. I think this might be a little bit of a longer episode too. Oh my gosh, so fresh. I think this might be a little bit longer. I think we can allow it. Judges, the judges are saying we can allow it. I think I'm gonna make this sand. I was over at his house, and I asked him if he could spend the night, and he said no. I was like, oh, okay. So I start walking home, and then I get the feeling that he's actually going to be allowed to spend the night. Or maybe I had the feeling before. Maybe I think I had the feeling before, and I realized, even though he said no, no matter what he says, he'll spend the night at my house. I just had that feeling. Can you spend the night? No. So I start walking, but I'm actually walking slow because I'm like, he's going to come around and say that he's allowed to spend the night. And sure enough, I get to the edge of the field, and Kyle, wait! And I turn around and see him on his deck, so I briskly walk back. Yeah, what's up? I'm allowed to spend the night at your house. I have no idea how I knew it, or I had that feeling. It was weird. I used to get that sometimes when I was driving down the road. It doesn't happen much anymore, but when I was younger and I was driving, I used to, well, it probably doesn't happen because I don't speed anymore. I still speed a little bit, but not like I used to. When you're young and driving, anything lower than 85, 90 miles per hour feels slow. And I would always get feelings when cops were there's going to be a cop that pops over that hill, and 9 times out of 10 I'd be right. Now that one might be confirmation bias. I can attribute that one to confirmation bias. The other one with how I knew the friend was going to spend the night, I have no idea. I've actually only ever gotten one speeding ticket, and I almost feel like that one is kind of ludicrous. There's a town in Tennessee called Dover, and the highway goes through it, and the highway goes from 55 miles per hour down to 30, but it does so on a hill that you can't see. So as soon as you all a cop needs to do is just sit there and reap the rewards, because you could sit there probably all day, and I would say 4 out of 5 drivers are going to be going fast enough to ticket. So I got a ticket. That was the one time, and I mean, I have such nonsense too. I had to go, and it was $100 and some odd. It ruined my day. I was driving to Clarksville. I think Clarksville's where I was going, and I was going to go geocaching. And I get to Clarksville, but I had this ticket on my mind. I'm like, I don't even feel like geocaching. I think maybe this will be a Zen garden. Let's make this a Zen garden. Kind of like that. Yeah, this is nice. I like this. I like this. Maybe we'll put a a tiny little. We'll make our own bonsai. I don't know. That would ruin my day. But I've been pulled over twice before. The other one I was able to talk my way out of, and I was DDing for mom and dad. It was Dad's Christmas party, and Dad had vomited in the vehicle. So when the cop pulled me over, Mom didn't have her seatbelt on. Dad was half passed out in the seat. I look over at him, I'm like, Dad, I just got pulled over. And he's like, just talk your way out of it, son. He goes back, he goes back to sleep. So I did. He pulls me over. Do you know how fast you're going, son? I was like, how fast was it? It was I was going 52 and a 35 or something. I was going 17 over. Um, and I was like, yeah, sorry, officer. Dad just vomited, or like, because he pulled me over and he smelled alcohol. And I'm like, yeah, he vomited. I'm designated driving. I just wanted to get home before I get sick. It smells rank in there. That was kind of a fib. I wasn't feeling that sick from it. I don't vomit. Some people can't be around vomit or deal with it. It's never really bothered me. I mean, obviously, if someone said, hey, do you want your room to smell like vomit? I'm not going to say, oh yeah, please give it to me. But it's not something that like grosses me out to the point of not being able to function. Some people it does, and you know, I can't fault them for that. There are some smells that I don't like. I don't like the smell of food cooking a lot of times, which is weird, but because you know you eat that. But I don't know. So I said, yeah, officer, I just don't want to get sick. And he's like, all right. He gives me a field sobriety. I don't know if I like that bonsai. So he gives me a field sobriety test, and I pass it, and he's like, yeah, just slow it down. Thanks for being a good influence. Don't be like them. Which, honestly, they had a designated driver, so maybe more people should be like them. I get in the car and I'm like, yeah, talk my way out of it. And he's like, that a boy. He's still not cognizant, but my sisters and I would insult each other sometimes regularly, always in fun. You know, usually it would be my youngest sister and I'd call her poop face, she'd call me a poop. And after that night, we added a new insult to our repertoire. Liquor-induced vomit. 3 guesses as to where that insult came from. Yeah, I kind of like this. I kind of rambled on a little bit here, so I'm going to call it quits for tonight. It's a little bit longer, but not too terribly long. It's not like an hour. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.